Good morning, guys. Welcome to the live stream today. Um, I do want to mention a few things, as always, before I get started. This week and next week is the Fall into Fitness Online Challenge week, or the next couple weeks. So anybody, of course, that has signed up beforehand, before October 24th, of course, gets access to their workouts today. You can actually sign up even though it has started. I can always send you a link to get set up. If you're interested in still signing up, you'll get a little bit less time, a couple days less, um, as far as for the trial, but you'll still be able to access workouts and try at least for 12 days for the free trial. So definitely check it out. And just contact me, sort of think about it, and it's a free trial. There's no obligation with it. You don't have to put in a payment method or anything of that sort. I'll give you access to workouts and nutrition as you need, and you'll see how my program works and how it's structured. So that's basically pretty much sums up what the trial is. It's easy to get started, and I'll give you a workout that's catered to you and to your needs. And if you work out at home or if you work out in the gym, I can accommodate that as well. I actually have a client who is with me, an online client who's that I've been training, and he's been doing very well with his workouts, staying consistent with it. I've got him set up through Evolution Nutrition, and he's abiding by that, focusing more on protein-based, sort of nutrition-based things as far as his workout plan goes. So he stayed pretty consistent with it. His workouts have been going well. He's progressing. So it's all about sort of your mindset and how you wake up and start the day, and that's what really determines your results, as far as your program is concerned. So again, you can sign up still. Just contact me and I'll get you set up. The link now probably will not let you sign up. It'll say that you have to contact me. So either way, I can get you set up if you're still interested in trying the trial. Again, you'll still have at least a little bit over a week to do the workout program and to have access to nutrition and things of that nature. So definitely let me know if you're interested in that. So I did want to mention that beforehand. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with what I'm going to be talking about today. And basically what I'm going to be talking about today, of course, is nutrition. To sort of preface this, it's really going to be basic topics that I'm going to be talking about today, but I think you'll find a lot of information coming from them. I think it'll be information that'll help you, because I'm going to be both talking about muscle gain and fat loss. That's the main two topics that I'm going to discuss in this live stream today. So I just want to preface that beforehand. It's going to be really basic stuff, but it may be information that you may not know. So let's go ahead and get started. And I do want to say a disclaimer here that I'm not a registered nutritionist or a dietitian. So as a personal trainer, I can only provide you with basic nutritional information. I can't give you... So if you was to be a part of my program, I can't, prescribe you sort of nutrition-based stuff, I guess you would say. But I can give you information, basic information as it relates to nutrition. And of course, the information today is going to be, pretty somewhat self-explanatory nutrition information, but I'm going to have a few things that will help you, especially if you're really focusing on a particular goal with your nutrition. Alrighty, so first thing we're going to start out with is understanding nutrition as it relates to muscle gain. So when it comes to muscle gain, Becoming more aware of the nutrients you consume is essential to seeing gain in muscle mass to your physique. Being aware of the macronutrients that you intake. These are the key things that you need to be aware of when it comes to muscle gain. So you have your protein, carbs, and fats. These are three things that are important. So essentially, this will help in optimizing the results from the gym, because in order to see changes in your appearance and muscle gain, your body needs to be able to absorb and use those nutrients to recover from workouts. So basically, when it comes to muscle gain, it is a little bit separate than fat loss. So when you're focusing on muscle gain, you really want to focus on your macronutrients. So again, these are what I mentioned before, which is your proteins, carbs, and fats. So these are macronutrients themselves are basically essentially foods that are required in large amounts to provide energy to the body. And especially when you're working out, especially weightlifting, and when you're focusing on hypertrophy, you're going to need that, because your body is using so much energy that if you are basically imbalance with your nutrition, then your body's not going to recover properly. So you're not going to see the results that you need if you're not taking in the proper nutrients for your body to use that energy to recover from, if that makes sense. So this is one of the most important things when it comes to muscle gain. So, muscle gain is an anabolic process, and it requires the stimulation of muscle protein synthesis, which is known as MPS, and the availability of adequate fuel, like I just mentioned, adequate calorie intake, especially adequate protein intake combined with resistance training. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what all is the key ingredients to when it comes to muscle gain. So I'm going to reiterate that again. So you've got, when it comes to building muscle, it's an anabolic process that is the stimulation of muscle protein synthesis, which is MPS, and the availability of adequate fuel, as well as adequate caloric intake, and as well as adequate protein intake combined with resistance training. So that's, in a simple nutshell, what it takes to gain proper muscle. So as we move on here, another thing to keep in mind is a calorie deficit. So basically what this means, like sort of what I mentioned before, being in sort of an energy imbalance is opposite of this. So when you're consuming food in your body, it's using those nutrients to absorb to help maintain your body's function. So being in a calorie deficit helps with maintaining the proper balance of the nutrients your body needs. It also helps with preventing overindulgence. So one thing to also consider is to make sure that the calories you consume are beneficial to your fitness goals. In other words, getting calories from nutrient-rich foods and not from overprocessed foods. It's pretty much self-explanatory. So basically, with a calorie deficit is you want to have a balance. So the calories that you use, you don't want to have too much calories. You want to basically be in an energy balance to where the amount of calories that you're consuming are enough to basically fuel your body. It's basically what a calorie deficit is. And when you start a program with me, that would be something that we would discuss. It's gonna, again, it's dependent on goals. Calorie deficit is pretty much really essential to when it comes to muscle gain. Macronutrients and calorie deficits are the big things when it comes to muscle gain. So that's basically what it is to be in a calorie deficit, is to sort of have a balance between the nutrients that your body needs. Alrighty, so we're going to continue on, and we're going to talk about um, the nutrition of muscle, or not the nutrition of muscle gain, the nutrition of fat loss. So when it comes to fat loss, it's about replacing high-calorie food to more leaner-based substitutes, as well as consuming less processed-based foods. So that can kind of be pretty much self-explanatory. A lot of what's with fat loss is basically substituting your food. Like I said, it's slightly different than when it comes to muscle gain. So basically, what you're doing when it comes to fat loss is substituting your food, so replacing high-calorie food to more leaner-based substitutes, as well as consuming less processed-based foods. Easiest way to understand the difference from processed food products to a more organic and natural-based product is all in the ingredients list. The larger the list of the ingredients is on the back label of the food under the nutrition label, the likelier it is to be more process-based. So, again, you want to incorporate more, well, I guess this is where expansion on it. So you want to incorporate more higher fiber foods into your diet. And that can also help again, and goes back for substituting, for example, some higher fiber foods would be vegetables, fruits, etc. So higher fiber foods would be a good sort of substitution to processed foods, I guess you would say. Again, this sort of goes with muscle gain the same way. So exercise and nutrition, it's got to be combined together. So nutrition alone, of course, is not enough, and vice versa. Exercise alone is not enough to see the full results, coupling both exercise and nutrition and basing it off your specific goals, whether it be high protein and resistance training. That is a typo where it says whether. I must have missed that when I looked at it. So, again, exercise and nutrition, it's got to be coupled together. You've got to have the proper balance, and it's got to be based on your specific goals. When you're doing resistance training, you always want to have high protein. It's based on your goals. You want to be able to have your body recover from the muscle damage that you're placing, upon your body when you're working out. So that's basically, it's just a balance. It's a balance between exercise and nutrition. So I'm going to go back to muscle gain. This is some important stuff that to be aware of when it comes to sort of having a strategy for nutrition as it relates to muscle gain. These are some key things that you can take with you and keep in mind if you're doing, sort of resistance training, weightlifting, anything of that sort, and you're wanting to build muscle. These are some strategies to keep in mind. So we go back to what was mentioned before, being aware of your adequate protein, caloric, carbohydrate, as well as fat intake are all essential when it comes to muscle gain. We didn't just mention that. That's just a sort of reiteration of what we just talked about. So when it comes to protein, you want to have at least 1.6 to 2.2 kilograms of body weight per day as it relates to protein. So you want to have at least that amount of kilograms of protein per day based on your body weight. You also want to have a surplus of at least 300 to 500 calories per day as it relates to calories. So basically, another thing, again, is basically like I mentioned before, it is based on individual needs. Another thing that can be put into consideration is carbohydrate intake, which I don't have here on screen, which would be 4 to 7 grams/kilograms per day for individuals who are resistance training, which is all in relation to muscle gain. Adequate fat intake would be 20 to 35% of total calories. So basically, you want to have more omega-3 and which is polyunsaturated fats, and then monounsaturated fats. So you want to have those types of fats in your diets. So let me go back and sort of basically repeat what I just said and slow it down a little bit more so I can break it down for you to understand. So again, with an adequate protein intake, when it comes to muscle gain, you want to have 1.6 to 2.2 grams of body weight per day. So 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein based on your body weight per day. So if you are in a calorie deficit, you want to have at least 2.4 grams of body weight per day. So 2.4 grams of protein per day based on your body weight. So the adequate caloric intake, which is calorie intake that you need with muscle gain, is a surplus of at least 300 to 500 calories per day. So when you go to adequate carbohydrate intake related to muscle gain, you want to have 4 to 7 grams per day of carbohydrates for training, for resistance training. And with adequate fat intake, you want to have 20 to 35% of total calories based on your fat intake, and you want to have polysaturated fats, which is omega-3 fats, and then monosaturated fats for your adequate fat intake with muscle gain. I hope you guys can sort of understand that. It is sort of a little bit in detail. I would definitely take notes on this and watch it again to sort of keep this stuff in mind. Again, this is stuff that you can take with you. It's really important stuff that you can take with you and sort of implement, especially when it comes to muscle gain. All right, so we're going to continue on. And again, we're going to repeat with fat loss. And we're going to discuss a little bit of the strategies as it relates to nutrition to fat loss. So when it comes to fat loss, it's all about portion control. And again, it's about substitution as well. So you want to have lean proteins. And again, as I'm going to repeat again, you're going to replace high processed foods with more organic and natural foods. And you also want to limit frequency of the portion of higher calories foods such as desserts. So if you are planning to eat a dessert, you want it to be in a smaller portion, basically. I mean, you could still have a dessert. You could still eat higher calorie stuff, but you want to have them in a smaller portion than what you would normally have them. So let's sort of discuss a little bit in detail with this. So basically, portion control, what portion control is sort of cutting out what you would normally eat in an average portion. So, for example, when it comes to pasta, you would eat 1/4 of a plate of pasta versus a half a plate at a meal. So you're just sort of cutting a portion of that meal basically in half. So, replacing higher calorie foods with leaner substitutes. That's pretty much saying, a salad instead of chips, or fruits instead of cookies. I mean, it's pretty simple and self-explanatory when it comes to that. So leaner based proteins is a good one. So you don't want to have fried chicken. You want to have skinless chicken or grilled chicken, basically. And I sort of mentioned this before with fruits, replacing high processed and high calorie items with whole nutrition dense foods. So you want a whole apple versus an apple strudel. I mean, it's pretty much self-explanatory when it comes to that. Limiting the frequency of your portions of high calorie foods, which is what I just mentioned. So dessert once or twice a week versus daily. I mean, that's basically what that means. So higher fiber foods, vegetables instead of macaroni and cheese as a side dish. Changing your side dishes to higher fiber foods. You could do something different besides vegetables. You could do whole grains or anything of that sort. Um, Also, drinks, replacing higher calorie drinks with water, other calorie free beverages. That's pretty much easy and self explanatory. Some examples, water, seltzer, flavored water, black coffee, anything of that sort would be good to replace with a higher calorie, um, basically a higher calorie drink. Alrighty. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. I hope you found some good information from all of this. I wanted to sort of share more nutrition based stuff. But again, I can't go so far into detail, but I can give you the basics of nutrition. So I hope that you guys found some stuff that you can take with you. And that's really what I want to do, is to share some information that you somewhat know, but then some information that you may not know. So again, muscle gain is all about being aware of your macronutrients, and then you got your calorie deficit, so being in a calorie surplus. Fat loss is all about portion control, substituting, basically, and then limiting your frequency of your higher calorie based foods. And of course, cutting your portions as well. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what muscle gain and fat loss are. Again, they're separate goals. So it just depends on what you're planning to pursue. So if you're pursuing muscle gain, you want to focus on your macronutrients. If you're pursuing fat loss, you want to focus on portion control and substitution. So again, I hope you guys found a lot of information from that. I may share a couple other nutrition based things in the future. I do like talking about nutrition, and it's something that I do want to discuss a little more, because there's so much that can go into it. And again, it is pretty much essential, especially with, my main focus, which is muscle gain and hypertrophy. All of that is essential, and I have to keep that in mind too for my day-to-day life. I have protein that I have to take in intake every day after my workouts, and I have to make sure that I'm getting higher protein based foods throughout my day. So it's pretty much essential for me too, not just a client that I'm working with, but myself, because I have to hold myself accountable too. And, even though I'm a personal trainer, I still have goals that I'm trying to pursue as well. So, it's something that I'm, living day to day, so that I know what it's like. And when it comes to fat loss, that's something, I'm not necessarily pursuing fat loss goals, but I myself in my daily life have been trying to substitute some of my foods, focusing on water more, focusing on low calorie stuff, anything of that sort. I've been trying to focus on, what can I substitute this with? So I'm practicing a lot of these things in my daily life, to be honest. And it's important to, do these things. They're important. It's important to have knowledge of nutrition, not just when it comes to exercise, but daily life, because it's going to help now when you're aware of what you're doing, when you're aware of the food you're intaking. It's going to help you now down the road. So, pretty much be aware of what you're intaking, because it is very important. Not just focusing on your exercise goals, but just in general for your health. It's important. So I just wanted to talk about that today. And I know some of the basic goals that people have are muscle gain or fat loss. So I wanted to sort of simplify those in a way to where you guys understand, if you have these goals, you can focus on that particular thing. But I don't want to talk too much longer. I do want to mention one other thing. I am planning on doing another live stream next week, and I have took your guys' feedback on doing live streams in the afternoon. So I'm likely gonna do my next live stream next week in the afternoon. I do have one tomorrow, and I'm still going to do it tomorrow morning. But the following week, I'm going to start doing live streams in the afternoon to see how the viewer count goes and see if I can get more people engaging in the afternoon versus in the morning. So watch for that. I think this next topic that I'm going to do following tomorrow's live stream is going to be about obesity. That's kind of what I want to talk about next and sort of discuss that a little bit into detail because that's a big issue now. And I sort of want to go into detail with that in my next, not tomorrow's live stream, but the following live stream. So I will definitely post that event link pretty soon for that live stream. But thank you guys again for watching today. I do have my email, my phone number there if you want to contact me about any questions you had about today's live stream or previous live stream. I'm willing to answer those questions, and I really appreciate you guys who watch. And again, this video will likely be uploaded to YouTube, and then I'll upload it back to Facebook on my main page, and then of course you'll be able to access it on the group page. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next live stream.